Well, hello and happy Friday, and welcome to Journey to Wholeness, where we are sharing our journey of how God mended our broken pieces and guided us to wholeness and purpose. And I am your host, author, speaker, and kingdom writing coach, Indiana Tuggle. Today we have a very important special guest in the building with me. I love to say in the building, though we know we're not in the building, but we have a very special guest in the building with us. We have Miss Yah Hughes, I keep saying her name wrong, Miss Yah Hughes, the Purpose Cultivator, and she is a coach, an author, a speaker, and a trainer. And she has over 15 years of experience as a trainer in higher education, professional, and emotional wellness. And she specializes in working with women who are tired of putting themselves last, being stuck, living with unresolved pain, mismanaged options, emotions, and is ready to be intentional with cultivating a better life, manage their emotions, and live an authentic life. She holds a Master of Education in Community Counseling, and she uses her formal educational professional training and experiences with biblical principles to work with you to explore what is possible in life, gain clarity, focus, and change unhealthy life patterns. And I first interacted with Ms. Hughes through one of her books because she is a proud best-selling author of 3 books: Hello Me, Made Whole, and You Need It, I Got It. So please help me welcome Miss Yah Hughes to Journey to Wholeness. Hey, Yah.
Hey, thank you so much. I am so excited to be here with you and all of the work that you're doing with your journey to wholeness, community, and family, and all of that. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
You are so welcome. I'm so glad that we finally got a chance to sit down again and have a conversation, because wholeness is such a necessary topic right now, because everything that happened in 2020, with what's just been going on in our lives emotionally, we're experiencing a lot. We're experiencing a lot with death of loved ones. We're experiencing job loss. We're experiencing depression and anxiety like never before. And wellness is something that we need to really, truly discuss and have candid conversations about. So, and people really, really need that, and they really, really need to hear our stories, our journeys, etc., so that they will know that they're really, truly not alone. So let's start with, how did the journey begin as the Purpose Cultivator?
So for me, growing up, like I would say that I struggled with learning who I was and my purpose because of that brokenness and not being whole. And, I really fought hard to learn who I was, to get out of those painful places and all of that. And once I did, I could go into a room and I could see women struggling with rejection, struggling with brokenness, struggling with all of those things, and not believing that they had purpose because of what life had dealt them, what the pain or the turmoil and all of that. And then I just resonated with knowing that they were struggling and wrestling like I was. And I vowed that once God delivered and freed me from some things, that I would take everything that I knew, all of the tools and the techniques that I had to help women, cultivate that journey of wholeness, to really, truly cultivate a healthier relationship with themselves, with their emotions and their mindset. Because a lot of times those broken places will make you believe that you're not worthy, that you don't have value, that you don't have purpose. And once we begin to truly mend those places and those areas and deal with that, then we can truly operate in our purpose. So for me, it was once I really saw and fought through those rejection issues and knew that I was made for a purpose, then my job was to help cultivate other women, because I can't give you purpose, because that's that's God's job, and I don't ever want to take his job. But I think that we have to know and understand that there is a cultivation process that we go through. So my job is to help cultivate what's already on the inside of you.
That's so awesome and so true. And my journey was so similar to that in that when I was going through my struggle and in my brokenness, I really didn't know who I was internally, first of all. And I really didn't know that there was value in me, purpose in me, or that
Mm,
there was anything in me beyond what I saw, growing up. And so a lot of times, that's the whole plan of the enemy. The whole plan of the enemy is to keep you from knowing who you are in Christ, who God is in you, and what God can do in your life. That's his job, and that's what he tries to keep us from. So the journey to wholeness, and as you said, cultivating purpose, it is a very necessary part in order to get to the purpose that most people seek. Most people ask, why am I here? Why was I created? Why was I born? What is it that I'm meant to do on this earth? Before you can get to that, you have to get to a whole state of
mm-hmm.
being. So tell us about some of the broken areas in your life and how you began to work through them.
So for me, rejection was a huge part of that broken area because growing up, I didn't feel that I was loved. I didn't feel valued. So in turn, like I've always felt the need to look for acceptance, to look for validation and those things. And because of that, I began to not look at myself as being valuable, as being someone that can have more, that can do more. And because I didn't see that, I began to show up that way. I began to show up rejected. I began to make decisions based on the fears, the rejection, that pain, getting relationships based on it. I became a people pleaser. And it wasn't until, I really sat and looked and said, why do I keep going through these things? Why do I keep putting myself in these situations? So these were some of the broken pieces that I struggled with. And I can remember, it was, as I like to call it, the end of a situationship. Like I was in this, it wasn't a relationship. We was just, two broken people that identified with pain. And I was in that, and I remember I was in college, and he had left my room for the last time, and it was like, why do we keep doing this? And I went in the bathroom and I looked in the mirror and I was just like, you gotta do better, like you gotta love yourself more. And that's when my journey kind of began, and it was through, naturally the work of God and the Holy Spirit, but the resources of, like journaling, going through therapy, really reading books and learning and sitting with myself. I went through a season of being alone. They call it silent seasons now, but I went through a season of it just being me, right? Me and God, just learning who I was, unlearning things like why, questioning why did I, allow this situation to happen for so long? Why did I, what was I looking for? What was my idea of love? But my identity was caught up in those issues that I couldn't see until I took time to really begin to allow God to reveal that to me through the journaling, through the praying, and then going through counseling. So these were the resources and the tools that I used to get out of that.
Absolutely, and we have such similar journeys. I remember when I first uncovered my abandonment and rejection issues is when I was in a relationship too, and he and I had just gotten through arguing, and it was a really, really bad argument, and I was sitting on the edge of the bed, and had my hand in my head, and I was crying, and looking up from the tears, he was walking out the room, and I mustered out of my mouth, "Please don't leave me." And when it came out my mouth, it was like I immediately had an out-of-body experience. It was like my spirit detached from my body and was like, "Girl, what is you doing?" And it was like, and when I said
Mm.
it, it was like the tears just immediately stopped. And I was standing there, sitting there, and I couldn't even look at him because in my head I was going, no, you are not begging this Negro who you know is not no good for you, who you know is not right. Y'all been doing nothing but fighting for the last so many months. Why are you begging him
Mhm.
not to stay? What? Not to leave? What is wrong with you? And I immediately just stopped crying, and I was like, you know what, bye. And he left, and that was the end. And after, from that moment on, I was like, you know what, I started praying, I was like, God, you got to help me figure out where this came from. And that's when I realized that I had a lot of abandonment and rejection issues from childhood, from my father. And I went through a lot of the things you went through too, the journaling, the books, the alone time with God, you know, me and God, unlearning some things, looking myself in the mirror, asking myself those hard questions, and things like that, and being okay with the answers, crying my way through a lot of things, and things
Yes.
like that. But a lot of time, what I've noticed is that so many times we don't really recognize the brokenness in ourselves until we begin to see the patterns in our lives, until we begin to
Mhm.
uncover the patterns in our lives. Have you found that to be true?
Oh, absolutely. Like you got to look at the root and the pattern, right? How do you show up, right? How does your pain show up? How do you show up? What emotions, that you contend with on a regular basis? And once you see those patterns, then you can begin to break them.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And I noticed too that you do a lot of coaching with women as well. What are the different strategies that you use when a woman is first coming into the community with you? How do you begin
So I
to
think
help her?
I think the first part of, working with any of, my clients is the assessment of where you are and like we just discussed, like what is showing up in your life, right? Because usually what they come to you for is usually a symptom, right? Or a byproduct of something else. So the first thing I want to do is really get them to see and think about, like what are those patterns or what's stopping them. And, then we work through that. They usually come thinking that is one thing, but when we take a moment to look at it, like I am very good with reflection questions. So I have a set of questions that, like I ask, and then the homework that's done with those questions to see, to uncover, those deep parts to be able to say, okay, this is a presenting problem or this is a symptom or the byproduct, but here is what you're really struggling with and here's what we need to work through. Again, it all boils back to, like the value that we see ourselves and the issues that have tried to snatch our identity and us not believing who we are because of situations and circumstances, and we begin to talk to ourselves in a certain way. So after we do the assessment and really get to the root, the next thing is really dealing with the mind, right? What is going on within your mind? Because once we deal with the mind and begin to think through that, we go through, I use what is called cognitive behavior theory because that's, like I have a master's degree in counseling. So I couple coaching and counseling together to be able to get, the best outcome for my clients. But that the thinking, feeling, behavior cycle, where when we look at how we think, how we feel, it then usually turns into a behavior. So when we begin to disrupt the thoughts, we can then really stop the behavior.
That's really good. Being able to disrupt the thought so that we can stop the behavior, because our thoughts a lot of times hold us captive and we don't even realize it. We think that we're doing good because we're thinking things through. And I remember that was one of the things that God had to tell me when I was trying to tackle my overthinking. He was like, a lot of times you're overthinking, it has to do with you just not taking action. on a lot of things. If you constantly overthink, he said, you stop it by immediately taking action, doing something that you can stop the cycle in your mind a lot of times with that. So that is so really, really true. And I love the cognitive behavior theory myself as well. A lot of times, what has been the, I hate to say the struggle, but what has been the struggle in helping people to guide them to that place of wholeness?
I think more so is, like, are you really ready to do the work? So the struggle is normally you want it, but you don't want it bad enough, right? And you think that sometimes getting a coach thinks that the coach is going to do the work. I'm not going to do the work for you, but I'm going to give you the tools to help you navigate and do the work. And I think that because sometimes the work is so uncomfortable, like, right, that work of dealing with yourself and really uncovering places that you masked or you avoided for so long, that's the hardest part because, like, nobody wants to deal with the pain. And it's not that you just don't want to deal with your stuff. It's the emotions and the pain that comes along with it. And for so long, people suppressed it and numbed that pain. But in order for you to get to a place of wholeness, right, because we know and understand that wholeness, it means to be restored, to be healed, to go back. You got to deal with the brokenness. And that's the part that is really the hardest part for people.
Absolutely. And I tell people a lot of times that fight or flight mentality shows up anytime we try to evoke some type of change in our lives. And the human body is naturally wired to prevent pain. So anything that we can do to prevent pain in our lives, that's what we're going to do. So changing is always so hard in that aspect of it because we want to, our mind says we want to, our spirit says we want to, but the mind is like, I got other stuff to do. And I help women to identify really those behaviors that you continue to tell yourself, this is just the way I am. No, that's the way your experiences have told you are, and those are the coping mechanisms that you have used to mask dealing with that issue. That's not the way that you are because that's not healthy. It's not healthy for you not to have, a circle of good friendships. It's not healthy for you to, not to have a good job or a meaningful relationship. You should have something. You should have healthiness in every area of your life. It shouldn't be dysfunction, everywhere. So that's an issue. If you feel like, well, that's just the way I am. That's just the way people are. No, that's not good.
No, you wasn't even born that way. Like, that's not the way you are. That's, like you said, that's a coping mechanism, and that's what you use as a defense, like to guard yourself. But you don't even like that. Like, you don't even like that that's what it is. Do you really know who you are because your pain has, like made you believe this for so long?
Yes, it's really an illusion. It's really an illusion that the pain has created. It's created this barrier. It's created this false reality. You're in a whole nother world. I remember when I was going through my healing process and I began to see myself differently, even when I looked in the mirror and I would constantly hear the song, I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. And I'm like, and that's really what it feels like. When you begin to see yourself in a new manner and to look in the mirror and see something different, when when you no longer see pain in your own eyes, that's a beautiful feeling. That's amazing. And so, which brings me to my next question: how do you define wholeness?
So I define wholeness as to be restored, healed, and recovered from a wound or injury, right? You are showing up now not being driven by your emotions, not being driven by that broken place, not even identifying as that, the victim or anything. Like, you no longer identify with those issues. They no longer lead you. You no longer lead with them, but you live a restored and healthy life, right? That doesn't mean that you won't have trials and tribulations, but you know that your identity is not in those broken places. It's like you coming home to yourself, right? To who God created, right? Who you were destined to be, and no longer do you identify with anything other than that.
Mm, that's good. That's really good because it's really that's the whole end goal is to be restored, healed, and whole in God. I also define wellness or the journey to wholeness as becoming aware of your broken places and developing healthy strategies to guide you to a place of wholeness in every area of your life, whether it be success, career, love, whatever it is that you want, creating a strategy to become whole in those areas and to see a place of happiness, because a lot of times we don't really know what our happiness looks like because we're so used to being unhappy. You know, we're so used to being downtrodden and depressed, so to speak, or just merely surviving but not thriving, that we really don't have an idea of what true happiness is beyond material things, you know. And I had to come to a place where God had to redefine happiness for me. You know, He had to redefine what continual happiness is, and what joy is,
Mm-hmm.
and what success is. You know, because we look at success as the end goal. You know, and I thought, since I ain't have a husband, since the business wasn't popping off, since I didn't have this, then I couldn't be happy. And God was like, you got to find happiness and success in the progress. You know, not just the end goal, because the progress is what really matters. As long as you're continually moving and striving, you know, for something, you're successful in that. So a lot of times, like you said earlier, it's about unlearning some things and not allowing what you see, you know, and others around you to define your own personal happiness
Yeah,
with
and
that.
that is so true. And I think that, like, God desires for all of us to be whole, right? That's why I come that you may have life and have it more abundantly, right? And He said, daughter, thy faith has made you whole. Do you believe in it? Yes, there's work that needs to be done, but all you have to do is begin to believe and do the work, because wholeness is something that's attainable to each and every one of us, and is not predicated on anything external, anything external. So your happiness, your joy, all of that is internal. It's you really being at one in your soul, right? The mind, those emotions, your will, every part of you is whole, it's restored, it's, they're operating in sync, right? So you can't prosper. He tells us that I want you to prosper and be in good health even as your soul prosper. You can't have prosperity and things if you are still walking around a wretched, wounded mess. So you gotta begin to walk and to live in a wholeness, so that you won't look for things, or like the beginning of a process to be the thing that and understand that you're anchored in your wholeness within, in your spirit, and all of those things, so that when those things come, they won't make you waver, and it can't make you believe that you are something other than what you are. If things can come and go today, but that does not mean that you aren't whole. That does not mean that you aren't a child of God. That does not mean that you aren't happy. So I think that really understanding that it's not predicated on anyone else.
Absolutely. And you said a key thing in there that I try to reiterate a lot of times to my clients is that life is going to happen. Things are going to happen. Things are going to happen in life as we keep growing and going, as life goes on, or as our grandparents used to say, keep living, baby. As you keep living,
Mhm.
something is going to happen. You're going to experience, heartbreak. You're going to experience death. You're going to experience, loss, in some area of your life, because that's just a part of life. But when you become aware and you begin your journey of wholeness and you develop those strategies, you will be able to apply them going forth in your life. It'll become almost like second nature to you to be able to implement those things. You'll know to get into the presence of God. You'll know to release a lot of your feelings and deal with that inner critic inside of you that tries to tell you that you're less than or you're not good enough because something has came up in your life or that something has came up to distract you or defeat you. You'll begin to learn how to talk back to it, which really brings me to your book, because I definitely want to talk about your books before you get out of here. Let's talk about the Hello book series.
Yes. Oh, I'm so proud of that body of work. It's literally my baby, and it kind of goes on the heels of the wholeness part. It's you really beginning to embrace who you are, right? After that pain, that you may not quite be in purpose, or you are. Life happens. You have pivots. You have shifts. You have all of that. But how do you begin to really look at you from an internal place and embrace every part of you? So the Hello book series is really about you taking that journey of unveiling who you truly are and who God is really making you to kind of become and evolve. So the first one is the Hello Me, and that is power of cultivating and loving the authentic you. So it really kind of takes you through a journey of really kind of taking a closer look at yourself and who are you now? Like how do you love on yourself? What ways do you show up for you? So it asks you those hard questions and all of that. So that's the first one. And then the second one that will be out by the fall of this year is Hello Freedom. And that's where we start talking about, after you kind of take a look and take inventory of yourself, now it's time to deal with those emotions and that mindset so that you could truly walk out that freedom.
That sounds amazing. I still have to get my Hello Me book because I hadn't ordered it yet. And when I was bringing you on the podcast, I was like, that's a reminder for me to get my book. I haven't gotten it yet because
Yes.
I'm so in love with Made for Purpose. So I was like, I got to get Hello Me because I know it's going to be amazing. So tell us how we can get the Hello Me book.
Yeah, so you could get the Hello Me book by going to cultivatewholeness.org, and it's right there in the bookstore under my store, so you could get it that way. So cultivatewholeness.org, and I'm not sure. But yeah, so in the next 3 weeks, we will be coming out with the Hello Me Self-Reflection Journal.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm excited about that. So after whether you read the book or not, I think that it's a great opportunity for you to take 30 days to really reflect on you. It's all things you. And it's not, like the small probing questions, but it's those really deep questions that are really going to have you reflect and discover yourself in a new way. So you could go to Cultivate Wholeness for that as well. The pre-order will be coming out in the next few weeks, and I'm excited about it.
Absolutely. I'm excited about it too. I have a journal line coming out as well because I feel as though journals, these reflective, guided, prompted journals, however way we want to call them, but I believe that they are so necessary during the season that we're in, because so I'm so excited when I see a lot of these coaches that are really doing absolute, phenomenal work in the lives of others and creating a lot of impact. I'm so happy to see us all producing these journals, because bottom line, not everybody has access to therapy, or can be able to go on a consistent basis. So a lot of these
Mhm.
journals in these books help us to begin the process, so that you're not still just sitting in darkness, because your finances are not right. So I'm loving what I'm seeing. God is producing a lot of great works in a lot of people, so I can't wait to see your journal come out. Mine is coming out this week as well. It's already been submitted to my printer. I'm just waiting on them to, say accept it before it goes live,
Nice.
in my store, so that I can begin to do pre-orders as well, because it's coming out within the next few weeks too. And mine is called Embrace Your Healing. It's my first journal that's coming out as well, and it just guides you through.
Congratulations.
Yes, it's guiding you through really identifying your pain points, your pain areas, and learning how to take them to God, and invite God into your healing in your journal, your broken places, and provide you really biblical solutions to this. So it's really about teaching you how to hear God and seek God for yourself, because I believe that
Yeah.
for a long time we have allowed other people to tell us who God is. And you constantly
Yes.
hearing testimonies of everybody else, but he your God too. And he wants to heal you. He has a plan for your life, but it starts with recognizing and hearing his voice for yourself, because there's nothing like
Yes.
knowing God for yourself. You know,
Amen.
and that's where your faith really comes from. When you know that you know that you know who God is for you in your life, can't nobody shake that. So to me, that's the foundation of healing, is hearing God's voice and knowing that he has a solution for your problem. So I'm excited. Before we get out of here, tell us how we can connect to you. I know you have a Hello Me community that you wanted to tell people about, if they so that they can begin to work with you, because I've been seeing you talking about this membership in this community, and I know it's awesome.
Yes. So we have, the Hello series has really birthed out a actual brand of its own, and we have what is called the Hello Suite, where we are coming home to ourselves, and it's a curated space for ongoing personal development. Right now, we just launched in November, and we are thriving, and it's a space where you can get personal development, emotional, spiritual, mental assistance, and there's monthly master classes, a community of support, coaching, all of that. So you can go to Cultivate Wholeness and click on the membership tab, and we have kind of like a rolling enrollment right now. So we would welcome, the woman that is ready to truly do the work to really become the best version of herself. I always say that, when you want to become the woman of your own dreams, but the woman that God has destined for you to be, then that's when it's time for you to come and work with me. If you aren't ready to do the work and you just, want excuses and things like that, then I'm probably not the person for you. But if you are ready and you are tired and you're ready to just show up for yourself in a new way and put that cape and that S down and not be the superwoman, but making sure that you feel yourself so that you can show up for yourself and others, then come on and join us in the Hello Suite.
Absolutely, y'all. Go join her in the Hello Suite. But listen, let me tell y'all about Miss Hughes. If you ain't ready, you
You
better
will be here.
get ready. You better get ready, because she is definitely going to show you how to do the work and get the work done. And I appreciate you so much, Miss Hughes, for joining us on Journey to Wholeness on today. I am been so elated to help identify a lot of those wholeness strategies. And really, I just wanted people to know that wholeness is a journey. It's a daily journey. But I believe that we'll be completely healed when we see God on the other side. However, as long as you're learning and growing, then you can always walk in wholeness every day of your life. So I just want people to not fear healing, because I feel like it gets such a bad rap sometimes. We always tell people,
Yeah.
you need to be healed, you need to be healed, but nobody tells them what wholeness looks like,
Yes.
and how to really get started, and nobody is willing to guide them, through that process. So we have to begin to give people strategies and not point fingers at them, all the time, telling them how bad they are, how their behavior is so toxic. Okay, but are you going to help them? What are you going to do to help?
What are you going to do? That's right. You telling us the what, but never the how.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for joining in. I hope you have enjoyed our time today. I hope you have enjoyed hearing from Miss Yah Hughes, and I hope that you would go and check her out on her website at www.cultivatewholeness.org. You can check out her books, the Hello Me series. You can check out membership in the Hello Suite, and you can just connect with her in general, because she is just the most awesome person. Because even if you're not ready, you can follow her for a minute so you can till you get ready. And then you can go ahead and push the button to take advantage of a lot of your services. And as always, if you would like to leave me your comment or send me an email, the email is still under the old email of pursuitofpurpose2019@gmail.com. In there, you can tell me your thoughts and your opinions and questions you may have about the show. And be sure to check out my store at www.indierice.com, and you can check out a lot of the books, a lot of the journals that are coming up, and the courses that I have as well. So until we meet again, make sure that you be blessed and walk in victory, and always, always remember that there is purpose in your pain. Good night.